I work with leaders when things are unclear and the stakes are real. After 25 years in these types of moments, here's something worth noticing. In this video, I want to talk about why smart leaders still get stuck even when they're doing what they're supposed to do. Why smart leaders get stuck even when they're doing everything right. Smart leaders do not get stuck because they're careless. They get stuck because the work is heavier than it looks. Most of the leaders I sit with are thoughtful, committed, deeply capable. They've done the reading. They've asked the questions. They've invested in strategy, planning, and alignment. On paper, many of them are doing everything right. And yet something is not moving. Plans stall after approval, alignment fades after agreement, energy drains without a clear reason. Leaders carry more than they should and quietly wonder why progress feels harder than it used to. This series exists because that experience is far more common than most leaders are willing to admit. And here's the quiet myth about leadership that most of us were taught to believe. We've inherited a story about leadership that sounds reasonable, but it doesn't hold up in real life. The story says that if you're smart enough, informed enough, and decisive enough, the work will move. If it does not, you must be missing information, lacking discipline, or even failing to execute. But most leadership breakdowns today don't happen because people lack insight. They happen after the insight arrives, after the retreat, after the plan is approved, after the language is aligned, after everyone agrees. The work stalls not because leaders are unclear, but because clarity alone can't carry the weight of real people, real systems, real constraints. This is where good work actually gets stuck. In my work with nonprofit leaders, pastors, boards, and executive teams, I see the same patterns again and again. Not dramatic failures, not obvious resistance, but quiet forms of stuckness that are hard to name and harder to address. Teams agree, but they don't move together. Boards support decisions, but they do not fully own them. Leaders stay busy, but feel increasingly alone. And strategy makes sense, but never really becomes embodied. These are not motivation problems. They're not intelligent problems. They're not tool problems. They're guidance problems. Good work requires more than insight. It requires someone to stay with it as clarity meets reality. Why this moment feels different than it used to? We're living in a time of unprecedented access to information. AI can generate strategies, frameworks, and plans in seconds. Insight is abundant. Language is plentiful. Advice is everywhere. What's scarce is follow-through that lasts. What is rare is guidance that remains present after the meeting ends, when the plan begins to cost something, when capacity runs thin, and when leadership becomes lonely. The result is a growing gap between what leaders know and what they can actually move. The gap is not a personal failure. It's a structural one, and it's widening. So here's why I wrote this series. I do not write for leaders who need more ideas. I write for leaders who already know what matters and are frustrated that the work is not moving. Leaders who feel the weight of responsibility. Leaders who are tired of circling the same conversations. Leaders who sense that doing this alone is no longer wise. I'm not really interested in dropping off a plan and moving on. I work alongside leaders as their plans meet real people, real constraints, real complexity. Because leadership is not lived in slide decks. It's lived between meetings. This series is an attempt to name the hidden forces that quietly stall good work and to show leaders how to begin to move again when those forces are addressed with guidance rather than pressure. So here's what this series will explore. Each essay in this series names a specific place where smart leaders get stuck and explores why insight alone isn't enough to move the work forward. Not abstract theory, not generic advice, but lived patterns drawn from real leadership contexts. We'll explore why insight does not automatically lead to movement, why alignment meetings fail to create lasting alignment, why boards approve plans they don't fully support, why leaders burn out even when things appear to be working, and why strategy dies after the retreat ends, and why eventually many leaders realize they need a guide alongside of them. These essays are not meant to motivate you, they're meant to help you recognize yourself. Here's how I want to invite you to engage this work. If you're carrying meaningful work and wondering why progress feels heavier than it should, I invite you to read this series on LinkedIn slowly. Not looking for tips, but listening for recognition. Because the moment you can name what is actually stalling the work is the moment movement becomes possible again. Good work does not require genius, it requires guidance. And you do not have to figure this out alone. If this names something you're already carrying, you don't have to rush past it, let it stay with you. And when you're ready, I'm here. Book a clarity call at theacuitylab.com or subscribe to the Art of Witness newsletter over on LinkedIn to dive in more deeply. I believe in you, and I hope you do too. May your witness be your superpower today.